So Ben, lovely to meet you. So Shrav's, given me some background of all the exciting things that ANZSOG have been doing recently. And so I would love to hear more about ANZSOG's digital transformation journey, in particular how the staff experience has been transformed as a result of the Salesforce solutions that you've implemented.
I'll go way back to when I started at ANZSOG and I walked into the organisation, and Salesforce was pretty much used as a contact management system. So, you could have used Outlook and you might be more productive as compared to using Salesforce. So I came from a higher education background in the advancement area. So I sort of knew pretty much exactly what I wanted to achieve using Salesforce CRM. And one of the biggest issues that we had was around organising the information in Salesforce to support our programs, because we're on a different cloud. And the different cloud didn't sort of allow us to have, relationships set up between individuals, organisations. It didn't have affiliations, a whole range of things we just could not record. And previously the organisation was trying to record things in a strange kind of way for what the business was trying to achieve. So I tracked up to Sydney a number of times and went to the Salesforce office overlooking the water there, very nice. And we had a discussion around Salesforce and the different clouds that were available and what might be more suitable to us. So with that in mind, I spoke to the architect and lots of people up there in Salesforce. So that was a really good experience. So came back and decided we definitely needed to put in EDA. So that had all the elements and arranged in the way that we required. And then we moved on with a project to, migrate the cloud, organize information, and also getting the information out from a myriad of spreadsheets. So we got to know exactly who our clients were, and then, of course, who our prospective clients might be for our other programs as they go through their education journey. In addition to that, we needed to have some kind of external facing event registration and payment system, because that was done in a very, very rudimentary way and using a different technology. So I wanted something that was very flexible, that could have all the ticketing options we required. And of course, I wanted to feed back into Salesforce. So we went and chose through a pretty rigorous evaluation process, platform called Cvent. And that served all our needs, and it still does. And all the information flows through into Salesforce. And then that gives us the opportunity to look at the, transactions for the payments, but obviously to know exactly who we were engaging with and where we might take them next in their journey. So the really good thing about Salesforce, of course, is I wanted to improve data integrity in the whole thing. And one way of doing that was to stage the information in Salesforce, allow the finance people, for example, to have a look at it, make sure that the transactions were all good. It was, to the right customer, and then releasing that information through to our finance system. And by the time it got to the finance system, it was pristine. So I could go through a number of efficiency gains we got from that. One of which we had the reporting. I'm told from the staff that literally weeks were put into producing one report, and obviously 2 weeks later data is out of date. We brought that up to just a simple click. All these reports running at the same time. We improved not only the integrity of data in Salesforce, but also in the finance system, and we had less complaints from our customers about billing.
What a great news story. And we love hearing those great stories. But it's interesting because a common issue we hear, Ben, from many of particularly our education customers, because, to get that holistic view of, any customer, any stakeholder, whether it's, your students or perhaps alumni, as all that information is typically held within multiple systems, student management system, learning management system. And obviously you had spreadsheets. So it sounds like, in terms of some of the benefits you're seeing is, the fact that it's improved data integrity and the reporting of that information. Are there any other benefits that you and the team are seeing since you've implemented Salesforce solutions?
Going back to the decision to go to EDA, which is a fundamental decision that really shaped where we went next with it. So the other problem that we had at the time was we had a student system that where the vendor was literally no longer existed. If you clicked on the vendor link, you were taken to a laundromat, actually. So clearly that needed to be replaced. So we went to market again, and my number one priority was to get something that was natively compliant with Salesforce, and it had to reside in Salesforce as an app. So with that, we went and got a platform called Rio Education, and we implemented that and obviously migrated all the information across and did all the usual things. But the biggest benefits that we were then seeing was that we had Salesforce as being the go-to place. And clearly by having an app within Salesforce, all the stakeholder information were pretty much just adding to the base. So they happened to be a student going through a master's program. They happened to be a guest, speaker or, ambassador, whatever it might be. We had all that information. So with that, we also needed to obviously automate and streamline the student lifecycle processes and, give the student a much better experience than what they were receiving up until now. So we also have an LMS system called Canvas, and we also wanted something that was, again, natively compliant or natively had connectors into Salesforce. And not only that, I wanted to have native connectors from Rio Education into Canvas so that the information flowed through nicely. So that was all achieved. So when people went through the application process, a long form application process through Salesforce forms, then they were taken into Salesforce, and then they were admitted to the course. And then after that point, they then automatically flowed through into Canvas, and the account was set up automatically. They were put into the right course, they were put into the right group, and information flowed back again as well. So the automation just was extraordinary in terms of the time that people were spent using all the manual. Everything was done manually up until we connected all these things up. So now, going on from what I mentioned earlier, so now we're in a spot where we have Salesforce EDA, we have Cvent, we have Rio Education, we have Canvas, all in one ecosystem. And the reporting that we could get out from Salesforce and the analytics, which we're going to next, just really gave people back literally, 30 hours of their work week. And that's not an exaggeration either.
Thank you for sharing that. Another area I would love to tap into a little bit more, and you mentioned before about the benefits that staff are seeing, in that it sounds like they're more proactive rather than possibly reactionary. Are there any other benefits that you think staff are seeing since moving to Salesforce? I
think retention of staff is a big one, because it'd be very hard to get good caliber people if they come to the organisation and are dealing with manual processes. So no one wants to have a huge administrative overhead. And if you do have that in the organisation, then the people who hang around will be of that ink to actually do those kind of processes. But if you want to, be really modern and get people to really leverage their skills and take things forward, then having all those things automated was immensely helpful. And I can pretty much guarantee that we've retained staff because we would have lost them if we hadn't have gone through this journey, and that's obviously a benefit as well. The other benefit is, from a helicopter view, is that when we have applications coming through for our foundation programs, the master's programs and the two flagship executive education programs, we wanted to know what the cohort looked like. So we had the application processes set up in Salesforce, and we had external facing application forms, quite a long application form where they could come back and time again draft up their response and come back and then finally submit it. The benefit of having that information in a dashboard was that the CEO, every single day, he was the biggest user of those dashboards, because he wanted to know if revenue projections were on course, But not only that, we wanted to make sure the segments of our prospective clients were correct. So we wanted to have just an obvious, basic thing is a gender balance, a balance between the jurisdictions across Australia and New Zealand. We didn't want them all coming from New South Wales, for example. And then we adjust our marketing campaigns to pick up more applications from the segments that are lacking. And we wanted diversity, equity, all those other things we wanted to ensure in the mix. So through having the workflows built in through the behind the scenes, I guess, and through the dashboards that are surfaced on the dashboards, the transparency of people's work was really extraordinary, and it just drove the business forward. It actually probably ultimately changed the operating model of the organisation, because marketing were a lot more engaged. There was connections between the people running the programs, marketing, and our CEO, who took extraordinary ownership of making sure that things were happening. And I remember even recently, one of our executive programs had very poor application numbers. We would never have known that in the past, because they all came through in Word documents. And to pivot and quickly, make a few phone calls to our biggest clients, and for them to send through, new customers, that really did change the bottom line.
Ben, I can't thank you enough for your time today. It's been an incredible journey for you, and a successful one, which is so great to hear. It sounds like you and I both could talk about business transformation all day. I certainly can, and particularly in an education setting. So look, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.